Hello again, awesomers. It's me. It's your old buddy, Steve Simonson. And today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive. Maybe it's not a shallow dive. It's not even a deep dive. It's a middle dive, whatever that's called in scuba lingo, about the company origin story. Now, for the awesomers who keep score at home, you'll know that this is a topic near and dear to my heart. And I'll have to also let you know that I've discussed this, and I've even given speeches about it for well over a decade in many contexts, not just e-commerce, not just the Amazon, FBA community, but beyond, right? Because every company has a story. And I'm going to share some famous company stories with you, and then talk a little bit about the company story process that I believe in, and I believe that you should try to execute for your own company. Now, who does this apply to? This applies to anybody who's building their own brand. If you are a drop shipper or retail arbitrage type seller, fine, whatever floats your boat, but you're not actually building a brand in that context. And I'm speaking to those today who are focused on building a brand, because your company story, believe it or not, I know a lot of people are skeptical that their story has value. Every company story has value, and every company story has some merit to it. So let's jump in. I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to dive into it very quickly and get right down to it. All right. So, look at that. I'm starting with the most important point, which is your story is just as valuable as somebody else's story. And this cannot be understated in terms of it's important for you to understand and remember. That said, it's the last slide in this particular deck, so I'm starting with the punchline. I'm really passionate about this, and I think that it's underutilized by sellers, because we all have in our own mind that, well, how could my company story have value? I started this thing because I need money, or I started this thing because I didn't have anything else to do, or any number of other kind of hollow stories. Like, they may be true or maybe even half truths, but that the part that sticks in your mind is not the part that is important. And I'm going to give you some examples and prime the pump, and then hopefully that will help you tie in to the company story process that we share later on. So here's the foundational elements of a story as you're thinking about it. And again, for the audio listeners, you can always go to the YouTubes. Again, I'm pretty sure that's how the kids call it, or other visual medium. We're starting to distribute in other visual medium platforms, including LinkedIn and the Facebooks. Again, I'm sure that's official. Even Twitter or the Rumbles, or like, we don't care. It's like wherever people want content, we're going to put up there. And to be honest with you, we don't even spend any time with the ranking or the promotion of it. So if you happen to be on one of those things and you see our content, why not click the subscribe and share and save and comment and do all the things that tell the algorithm that this has value to you. Maybe you're not ready to declare value yet. Let's jump in further. So if you're starting with a problem, this is typically the result of how a company begins. You diagnose some problem, and now you want to say, well, here's how I approach that problem in a unique way. It could be the category, like, hey, I'm a big passionate person about pets, so I'm diving into the pet category, and I don't think there's good solutions out there. A second element, which is often found in entrepreneurial stories, is, hey, I'm the underdog, right? Every upstart is an underdog versus the powers that be, right? So it doesn't matter, it doesn't really matter how much money you have to start with. There's some leader in the category. That means you're the underdog, and people love underdogs. So why not find that angle in the story somewhere, or at least focus a little bit of light onto it? Now, an element of solving any problem is to actually make the experience better for the users of that product or the buyers in that particular category. If you have hated, how let's just use pets again. Pet food is full of bad preservatives or whatever the cause du jour happens to be, and you said, no, I'm going to just use organic stuff. That's going to be my way of enhancing the experience, that's cool, right? That's very viable, and you should embrace that and jump onto it. And again, a little focus in the story as one of the angles. Now, over your launch, you need to develop and get the support of fanatical fans. The way people actually do this is dead simple, at least conceptually, and quite difficult to actually execute. The easiest way to create fanatical fans is just to thank your customers, appreciate them genuinely, even one-on-one, and whether it's sending them thank you notes or even a little video. Hey, thanks for your purchase. We really appreciate you. We're just getting started, and your business means an awful lot to us. Like, just saying thank you sets you apart from the riffraff that's out there in a true, authentic, and let's just call it organic way, right? Getting an email saying thanks for your order is stupid. Everybody does that. It's a minimum. You have to do it. It's not like if you don't do it, you've suddenly enhanced the experience. People expect the thank you email, like, yes, here's your order. Thank you for that. But how can you turn somebody fanatical if you just do what everybody else does? That's the status quo. You have to be better than that if you're going to develop the support of a fan base. Now, I'm a big resistor of this and believer in it at the same time. I realize that may seem to be a dichotomy, but the fifth pillar of this story basis is a founder should be visible, right? I don't like the spotlight. I don't like to be out in front. And so I'm often pulled that direction. And in past startups I've done where I'm, resistant, I ended up like writing blogs that became super popular, not just with the customer base, but also the employee base. And when you have, hundreds and hundreds of employees, that became my method of communicating both with customers and our, broad-based team, because they weren't all in the same buildings. In fact, that we were distributed to, amongst 40 or 50 locations. That concept of putting the founder, visible on the front line is something that gives a story more sizzle and more interest than, this corporation has started a new division and it is going to sell you better pet food, right? Nobody cares about that. Everybody can see, kind of the corporate robots out there. And if you're not one of them, how do you set yourself apart? You do it by being visible and proclaiming your values. And then I love to focus on this, but sharing what you believe. Don't put in this idiotic, trite, mission statements. We're going to sell the best product and deliver the best customer service and be the cheapest price, and all of these nonsense, really craptacular platitudes that actually mean nothing. People don't believe them. They see right through them. And by the way, most companies don't even bother to read them once they've written them, right? They're just a waste of space and time. But the contrast to that is just tell people what you believe. We believe in making the best dog food, right? We believe in all organic. We believe in every ingredient should have, a farm location printed on the package, whatever. Again, I'm making this stuff up. But you'll find most of the companies I have, ideally all of them, but I can't actually look at all the pages all the times. But a we believe is often found in the About Us section, because we want to share. Here's what we believe. Like, we believe entrepreneurs are awesomers and can change the world, right? We believe that entrepreneurs need, more support. We believe that entrepreneurs make the world a better place, right? All of these types of things. When you say what you believe, it creates very clear lines between people who agree with you and people who don't. Customers, fanatical ones in particular, are the ones who agree with you. And so you should be trying to find those lines of polarization. I know everybody, their instinct is, well, gosh, if I can just get 1% of this $1 trillion market, I'm going to have this massive business, so I don't want to tick off anybody. But the truth is, that's not how things work. You need to get an outsized piece of business from a particular customer avatar or a series of customer avatars that are based on truly how you approach business, what you believe, and how, let's just say, loud and proud you're willing to say it. And you see companies doing this all the time with mixed results, right? Sometimes they say what they believe and they then back off of it because they're actually ultimately gutless and weak. Stand strong on what you believe, regardless of what it is, and make that part of your company story. And then finally, you'll find some way of making your mark, measuring these points of being able to say, you know what, I'm going to, start here. This is the beginning of my story, and here's where we're going. This is what we, these are the things we believe in, and we're going to change the world of whatever, organic dog food, to stay on the same example, by creating this new reality of, farm to dog table or whatever it is, or cats. I suppose cats eat food. Maybe I'm not leaving out the gerbils. Don't send me letters, everybody. Whatever pet you have, let them have the food that you think is best for them. Boy, this is going to be a long one. All right, so let's dig into the first one. So for the visual folks, I've got some sneakers on the television. Looks like a tennis player or maybe somebody sitting in a high chair, and there's some shoes, and that is not the precise brand, but Tom's Shoes became a very interesting company story. Their company story, or brand story, as you might think of it, is essentially, hey, listen, the founder saw some hardships of kids growing up without shoes when he went on some trip in Argentina. And so he wanted to help. So he made a company shoe pledge that for every pair they sold, they would donate a pair of shoes to a child in need. And of course, if you boil that down, it's just a 1-for-1, right? One sale, one donation. Now, a little dark side of this, they give away a lot of shoes, which sounds really cool, unless you talk to shoemakers in Ghana that they're putting out of business, right? There's a famous interview of a Ghanan shoemaker, and she's like, hey, listen, we have 200 people working in our shoe factory trying to make shoes for our local people, and Tom shows up with truckloads of free stuff. How do we compete against free? So know that although I think the story is holding up very well for Tom's, there can be unintended consequences. So be sure you think through both the positives and negatives of what your brand positioning and brand story may be. Okay, so we've got on the visual screen for those audio listeners, we've got a lovely young lady. She's got some glasses on, and that translates into the WARBY Parker, which is another very famous D2C brand. Now, in its brand story, Warby basically says, hey, listen, we're rebellious, and we're going to tackle the problem of expensive eyewear. Basically, after one of the founders lost his glasses on a backpacking trip and couldn't afford to make a replacement. He's a grad student, he or she, I don't actually know who's the Warby, but like it was too expensive to replace him. So, now Warby kind of ripped off Tom's a little bit and said, hey, we're going to donate a pair of glasses to someone in need for everyone that we sell. And we're selling them at a low price. This is, their in a nutshell statement is good eyewear, good outcome, right? This is an important concept for Warby Parker, and it's resonated. People get tired of getting ripped off. Eyeglasses are unnecessarily expensive, and it's kind of a racket for eye doctors. And, listen, if you're an eye doctor, forgive me, but yeah, well, I just believe what I believe. So if you hate me, that's life. I'll live. Thank you. Next example. So I've got a nice looking burrito, lots of ingredients in there, and this goes into the Chipotle brand story. Now, Chipotle says, hey, we're just in the business of good food, right? We're going to find those high quality ingredients. We're going to use classic cooking techniques, not, kind of factory techniques. And we're going to do this in a fine dining, quick service combination, a unique combination. And then Chipotle says, hey, listen, we also want to make the world a better place for respecting animals, farmers, and the environment, right? So they're kind of doing it all. And their nutshell statement is, hey, we're doing food with integrity. By the way, I like Chipotle. I think their food is good. When they have failed on that, they've had some, let's say, challenges with health when some of their systems have failed, but they still have rebounded and have come back strong with that story. If you've never been to Chipotle, check it out. I think their food is generally better, and historically it's been a good value as well. So if you can deliver good quality food at a good price while you're making everything better in the supply chain and respect for animals, farmers, environment, etc. That's a pretty good win, and people resonate with that story. All right, one or two more examples. So I've got a woman here, and one is face down, one's kind of giving a back rub, and it's for the very famous company that you all know. It's called Back Rub. Now, this is an example of a company story. Oh, now I'm getting some messages that say they don't know what Back Rub is. You knew who Warby Parker is. You knew who Tom's Shoes. Yeah, and you knew Chipotle, but you don't know Back Rub. Well, gosh, everybody, this is a good point about company stories. They evolve. What is Back Rub, you may wonder? Google is Back Rub. When Google was found in 1995, it was called Back Rub because they're going to massage the results. This was part of their nutty startup environment. So in 95, a little company called Back Rub started up and now has become Google, which ultimately renamed themselves to Alphabet. But I remember when Google was a thing in the early 2000, let's call it 2001, 2002 timeframe. This is, it started in 95. It didn't get any traction until the early 2000s. Yahoo was beating the crap out of it for 5+ years. And then Google just said, we're staying on the ultimate, simple screen and very low sales pitch. They also had a little thing called the company mantra was do no evil. They scrapped that later, everybody. So if your policy was that you believe in doing no evil, and then you get rid of that, what is the new policy? One wonders. Nevertheless, I will digress. Google still focuses on kind of minimal branding and very low, let's say low touch call to actions. Basically, like, we're going to display this on the screen. If people don't click on it on their own, on the merits of that very soft ad, then you as an advertiser are not going to get anything. And of course, they have many products now, and it's quite a large organization. But their nutshell comment, and what made Google ultimately the biggest search company in the world, and the biggest advertising platform probably in the world, is that they have clean, fast, lightning fast, and reliable results. You can trust when you get a Google result. Again, this is not me making their case. This is them making their own case. So if you agree or disagree, please send your letters to backrub.com. All right, the punchline again, your story is just as valuable. Everybody started somewhere for some reason. And so one of my old buddies, he was a nurse, and he's like, I need $500 a month because the schools in my neighborhood suck, and I want to put my kid in a private school, and that's what it's going to cost. And so he built a business around, I need $500 a month to put my kid in school. That's a great hook for a company story. But that's just like the opener, right? This is why we need to do it. Then here's how we did it, right? Well, we, sourced some products for Amazon, and then, we built this brand, and we built it in this category because I have this passion or what have you, and just bing, 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 right down the line. There are literally dozens of other examples. And I remember giving this speech at a conference, or some variation of this anyway, 5 or 6 or 8 years ago. And I had, wonderful entrepreneurs coming up around me, and they're like, Steve, that is, man, that's a really good point. We believe in what you're saying. We just don't think it applies to us. And I can absolutely assure you, everybody has a company story. And without doubt, there is a company story that every single person can benefit from. And if you want to, the process of how to make a company story, pop over to Empowering and just ask, one of the groups, maybe e-commerce 101. So go to empowery.com, go to the e-commerce 101 group and say, hey, I would like to have the company story process. And I'll have somebody go in and share that document with you. But it's just a step-by-step, but quite a simple approach to making a company story. It gives you all the things you need to do to make a company story. And if you can't get it done with that process written out for you, and this podcast or video that you're listening to or watching, then I want you to hire somebody. And again, you can go to empowery.com and do like the Marketing with Emma. She's brilliant. She's a great copywriter. She can learn your company story and probably help you craft that. There are other resources probably as well, but she's somebody that I know and I like, and I think is super talented. So, let's take some action. Let's get a company story and let's make it something of value, because golly, you're really missing the chance to set yourself apart, and actually not just for the benefit of your brand, right? This helps your brand set itself apart and differentiate. But it also helps your customers understand, gosh, this is more than me just buying this bag of dog food from, this clown I found online. I'm actually participating in a family business, or I'm participating in an empire being built on good values and making a change in the world, whatever your foundations are. They can get much more behind that. And the decision becomes less about the commodity of, I got money, you got dog food, let's exchange, and more like, I am totally into, this brand because of these reasons. It has a tertiary effect, which is, my gosh, it's great for your team. When your team can understand, here's our company story, here's how we began, here's why we exist, and here's how we're going to change, the industry or the world or whatever the case is. Man, oh man, it's the most excellent thing for recruiting and retention. It's great to keep everybody aligned on values. And the more of those we believe statements you have that you're clear about, the better off your company will be. So anyway, listen, everybody, I'm a true believer in this stuff. This is not me just, kind of telling you things that I don't believe. This is me giving you the straight facts. I am 100% a believer in having a good company story. That origin story really is something that can be special. And I will say for the last time on this podcast anyway, whatever your story is, whatever the reason is, wherever you are in terms of your success, ascension up the mountain. So at the beginning or in the middle, or even, approaching the top of the summit, everybody's story has value. And if you can't see it, follow the process, which you can go over to Empower and ask them for a free company origin story process. Then have somebody, pay somebody to help draw it out of you. And when you read it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I want to buy from these people. These people are great. I definitely want a piece of this. And then you'll realize, oh, that's actually my company, right? And that's the kind of storytelling that gets people motivated and brings all those benefits. So and once again, awesomers, I appreciate you. Now's a good time to decide if this thing had value or not, and go subscribe and share and save and comment and do all the things that people are supposed to do that I really don't pay much attention to. But that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. Like when I see a review, they send me reviews. I'm like, gosh, I really appreciate that. And when I meet people around the world and they're like, hey, I listened to the podcast, Steve, I really, really enjoy that. It's like, wow, that makes me happy. I feel fulfilled as a result of that. And I was just in Mexico on a sourcing trip, and I had a fella, he's like, I knew you were the keynote speaker for this event, but I didn't really recognize your name. But the second you started talking, I recognized your voice. And then he's like, oh, this is the awesomer guy, right? And so those fun stories, they really do mean a lot to me. So I want to just say a heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you who take the time to listen and share and subscribe and save. I don't know, all the things that you do. I appreciate it. As you know, this is a labor of love. I really do appreciate the attention, and I love entrepreneurs. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.